have less enjoyment in talking to people like Sam Harris because, you know, this thing about new atheism, which is so fundamentalist in its nature, this constant sense of siege, you know, that they feel like atheists in this country are under attack. Really? You know, this notion, this absolute certainty of the truth, you know. Sam Harris especially, I mean, I've never seen anyone read the Bible more literally than Sam Harris does. The most literalist in the world doesn't read the Bible more literally than Sam Harris does. And that conversation is not as fun because I actually find far more closed-mindedness among the Sam Harrises of the world than I do among evangelical Christians.
Wow. Without fomenting yet another spat in the long saga of Sam Harris v. Reza Aslan, do you want to respond to that?
Well, almost none of that actually maps on to what I do or how I speak and what interests me. I mean, I'm not someone who talks about atheists being under attack, and this is not, you know, I famously among atheists, I said we shouldn't even use the word atheism. You know, if you Google the problem with atheism, you'll get a speech of mine where I say that just as we don't have to define ourselves as non-astrologers, we don't have to define ourselves as atheists. Now, the word is around and in some cases is politically useful. I would just point out against Reza's insouciance on that point that atheists are the most stigmatized minority in this country in the sense that it's the only variable around which you have more or less doomed any political career. If you ask people, will you vote for an African American, a homosexual, a Jew, any variable you can think of, a Muslim, in your own party who's well qualified, you will get a majority voting for that person, no matter how you tweak those dials, except if you say atheist. Then a well qualified atheist in your own political party will not get your vote more than half the time in this country. So it's a political problem to speak too honestly about the implausibility of religious doctrines, and until we have a change in public opinion on this question, until the taboo around criticizing bad religious ideas gets lifted, you know, we're not going to have politicians talking sense publicly on these topics, and our political process will continue to be hostage to people's religious convictions, which are not helpful. But the other thing I would say to what Reza said is that it's not that I'm reading the Bible literally. It's that, one, I'm noticing that a significant percentage of Christians do. This is, 45% of Christians in any poll you're going to run are literalists. They believe that the Bible is the perfect word of the Creator of the universe, and it has to be read literally, not metaphorically. And so let's just talk about those 45% and the consequences of believing these things. That's one conversation. Then you can talk about all the people who think it's still inspired by God, but realize that some passages have to be understood metaphorically. Okay, great. Talk about that and those consequences. Then there are all the people who seem to have faith claims that are so elastic as to commit them to absolutely nothing, but they still want to believe something and they still find it important to proclaim the religion of their parents. Okay, let's talk about the consequences of those beliefs. And one consequence of those beliefs, and it's a style of magician's patter that Reza's more or less made a career out of, is to give cover to all the other truly divisive and dangerous and unseemly certainties of fundamentalists. Because what Reza wants to do is to say it's never the problem is never really religion. It's always politics. It's always economics. It's always somebody was oppressed by somebody, and that explains their behavior. No one's ever really motivated by a strong commitment to theology. No one's blowing himself up on a bus because he wants to get to paradise and get his virgins. It turns out that's untrue. There are people, in fact, the people who blow themselves on buses, almost to a man, are focused on paradise. They're not focused on some terrestrial grievance that makes sense once you strip away the divisive religious nonsense.
Right, and even if they are motivated by terrestrial grievances, there's no way that their proposed solution to those grievances would be flying planes into buildings were it not for the scaffolding of religion around those grievances, right?
Yeah.